we've got at least one person who's living some resilience today. I won't out him to the world, but I have to say how grateful I am that he is enduring that maybe bitter pill. I don't know. I'll let him tell us maybe later. But resilience in business and life, how does it appear? How has it impacted you? What are the war stories that you can share around resilience in and around your businesses? Who wants to go first? Oh, now you're all going to be timid on me. Huh?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat, and I don't know if anybody knew this before I got invited to this esteemed group. And by the way, this is a really cool esteemed group of people that focus on helping CEOs in different ways. I'm a huge fan of the entrepreneur operating system, and in fact, the clients we have that are running on EOS, it is so easy to get into the language and the definitions of the world. So that's really cool. And then where we are fractional CMOs, it's been great to get to know Eric and my fractional sales counterpart. And in fact, I've got an opportunity to forward to you after this call, Eric. I forgot. And then Chris, fresh FP&A obviously is in that arena on the finance side, and so we could definitely talk about like leveraging fractional talent for resiliency as well. But back to that story. So I am, well, when I was 30 years old, literally on my 30th birthday, which is almost 20 years ago, and I'm not going to tell you my age, but you can math it out as much as you want to. On my 30th birthday, I was working for a startup as the chief marketing officer. And unbeknownst to me, on my birthday, I was having a heart attack. It was a slow, sort of quiet heart attack. Never felt any problems before, never knew that I had any issues until I woke up one morning on my birthday while I was traveling to speak at a conference. And was struggling. I felt like I had the flu. I felt like I had the fever, but also I had like chest pains and arm pains. Um, Fast forward, got diagnosed, got everything done that I needed to, learned that I had a blood disorder where I don't make any good cholesterol. I decided to turn that into a positive, and I actually started my own first business that was successful and got into my entrepreneurial journey because of this big life event that happened that made me decide it's time for me to take control of my life. And so that happened again 20 years ago, just under 20 years ago. And it's what got me on my entrepreneurial journey. That entrepreneurial journey turned into several other entrepreneurial journeys. And like most entrepreneurs, I am occasionally successful at being an entrepreneur. But turning those lemons into lemonade was something that defined me 20 years ago and continues to be a big part of my DNA now.
Wow. Thanks for that story, Brett. That's amazing. I'm intrigued by the transition. Was it the transition into the entrepreneurial experience? Was it an overnight? Was it the lights just went on and this is what I'm going to do, or was it something that evolved over time? Tell us about that.
Excuse me. So, one second here, I'm losing my voice.
Oh,
Getting all choked up. So, it was not an overnight experience. Excuse me. It was not overnight. What had happened was I drink tea to try to keep my voice in good shape during conversations like this, and I choked while drinking my tea. So you're welcome. Don't do it. Don't try this at home, kids. Speaking of bad dad jokes, don't try this at home, kids. Um, what happened was after my event, I spent a couple of nights in the hospital, got a stent put in, figured it all out. Um, Took a couple of weeks off, went back to work for my full-time company, which I realized was a major stressor, was sort of fighting against some natural instincts that I didn't really ever think about. Um, and what I say is my heart wasn't in it anymore. So I tried to go back to work full time as a chief marketing officer. I tried to go back to work in the world of, helping, helping one company out. And I realized, like literally after a heart attack, my heart was no longer in it. So it took several months, and for me to put my plan together and to create the company that I created, which was called Market Creation Group, which in 2019 I sold it to a private equity firm.
Okay. Chris, you're shaking your head. What's resonating with you?
I mean, that was Brett, that was an amazing story to share, man. I think resiliency to me, man, the countless war wounds and stories. I think the first resilience started with me when I was early in my life, right? I think for me, resiliency, the first thing that I think about was when I was in third grade. So not a lot of people know this about me. So starting off the vulnerable, sharing. I kind of like to be authentic. I kind of like to keep it fresh. So that's just what it's going to be. But when I was in third grade, I distinctly remember like in third grade, you always had those like opportunities to read in class, right? And I would always start reading the sentence backward, like at the end, forward. And I never realized that, like, all the kids would laugh at me, they would make fun of me, and I would go back and I'd be like, "I don't know what's, like, wrong with me," and I was having, like, attention problems, and come to find out at 3rd grade, and not a lot of people know this, I have a learning disability. I have dyslexia, and, I was actually held back. So I have a twin sister. I was held back in 3rd grade, and I remember that moment where I'm like, I'm getting held back, and that came on me. I was like, I'm not gonna be with my sister anymore. Like, what does this mean for the rest of my life? And my mom made a great decision at the time, and I spent the entire summer relearning, like relearning how to read. And one thing that really kind of this moment of my life that changed the course of my life actually helped me develop the superpower one of the superpowers I have in my life, which was I spent the entire summer, and one way for me to relearn, I did a lot of word problems, a lot of word math problems, right? So that helped me like take the reading aspect of it, but then also it helped me from the quantitative side of like numbers being able to tell stories for me, right? So like I developed that skill set, which is translating that over to the CFO suite. That's financial statements in and of itself, right? Financial statements tell a story of a business. And another thing that I was able to learn, Miss White was the teacher that kind of helped me that entire summer. She would give me challenges with multiplication tables, right? She'd give me sheets of paper and say, Chris, if you get done with these 5 sheets of paper, you'll have, we could spend the rest of the day, and you will go play outside, or we'll get ice cream, or we'll get snacks, or we'll do something like that. And that really helped my quantitative ability, right? Because when you're reading, 12 times 15, right? You can't read that 21 times 51. You have to read it the right way. So this ability to be able to look at these multiplication tables and do these word problems, it really helped me develop core competencies that I needed to be a great CFO, to be a great fractional CFO that carries over into my life now. So my point in sharing that story around resiliency is that you never know you're in that moment of resiliency until you see your way through it. And then you can look back at it and say, man, that was a moment that could have broken me. That was a moment that could have shaped the whole course of my life. But I decided to take a different mindset. I decided to take a different attitude. I decided to take a different approach to use this difficulty, challenge, adversity to actually improve where my life needed to go. Right. And I share that story because not a lot of people know that, right? There, I lead a global fractional CFO and advisory service company called Fresh FP&A. Prior to that, professionally, I've helped organizations build, scale, and exit. I've been part of a lot of different acquisitions and exit in part of my life, building a lot of great companies. But I think it's always important to understand that, man, you never know what somebody's battling on a daily basis, right? And I think this topic of the messy art of resiliency, right? It gets messy, it gets challenging, it gets difficult. But the major takeaway that I want everybody to take away from the story that I shared is like resiliency is only something that you can develop when you're facing adversity or challenge and opportunity. So don't look at it as a defeating. Look at it as a way of an opportunity to say, "Hey, I get the privilege of exercising resiliency right now. Like I get the honor to do that. I get the honor to take this adversity and overcome it. That way it could be a example or a story to share for later on in the future to help inspire or motivate someone else." So that is my insight and perspective I want to share on this topic.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate that story. Beautiful story. Uh, Eric, how does the messiness touch you or affect you?
So you know what, I do enjoy the what Brett and Chris had said. So I had a experience in high school. I played soccer my whole career, and I get to high school, and you're no longer the the big man on campus. You're the small fish in a big pond. And I was a class clown growing up. I was a class clown growing up. I said what was on my mind, and I got in a game my freshman year. We were 4 games into the season, and I got taken down really hard. And I got up to the referee, and I told him exactly what I thought of him, and he, did the right thing and threw me out of the game. So the next day after going home, and in the car ride on the way home was not a pleasant experience with my father, because we always respected authority. I got called down to the athletic director's office. So I'm in his office, great guy, Mr. Fox, and he said, Eric, he goes, you have one of two options, and I'm giving you a man of choices. And I go, okay, I'm in for choices. He goes, you can either sit 4 games. And I went, 4 games? I go, what? This is like a 2-game suspension. Everybody gets 2 games. He goes, oh, no, no, not for the scene you made. And I go, oh, okay. And he goes, or you could take the referee class in 2 weeks and sit 2 games and become a referee and learn what this, everybody's going through. Well, from that experience on, has been great for me because I became a sports official. I've been officiating sports for many years. I'm involved in the game at all aspects, but what it's taught me in business is really how to read something. And you read people, you read the situation, you become more strategic in the situation. You don't just react. I've become less reactive in my career, and working with small to medium businesses is really, you know, having the ability to build their strategy for growth, and also, you know, handle a tough situation when it needs to be handled. When you handle it, and the stress of a tough situation. And I still don't forget my first game was March March 13th, 1985, and I was alone on the field out there. I was doing 10-year-olds, and you're all alone. You're all alone, and I'm going, now I know what they were all saying. It clicked in, and you know what? It translates into the business world when you first go into something. Like, when I first started out in sales, I went door to door selling copiers and fax machines. Yes, for all those folks of the Gen Z, there was something called the fax machine where you put the piece of paper in and it came out the other side. But it's something that I did. But I had to overcome objections, and really rejection was a big thing for me, is overcoming rejection, and it happened every day. And what it taught me in life was you got to come back every day. And I live by the expression, a winner never quits, a quitter never wins. And you know what? I try to instill that in the companies I work with, and really, Jim, this is a great topic, but be as resilient as possible. Come back with force. Come back with, if you fail, you know what? It's an opportunity to learn, and you learn from your failures. And I've learned from all my failures in business and in life. So I appreciate the question and the topic.
Yeah, it's a powerful ability to be able to reframe a situation or reframe an experience in a way that takes it from the negative, the dreadful thing, the horrible thing that has just happened, and turns it into an opportunity. Ryan, you're shaking your head. What are you thinking about that?
So, resilience is a pretty fascinating topic because while I believe that we all need to grit through things, I think there's a point where, and that I've experienced in my own life, where this isn't what I want to do. This isn't something I'm enjoying. This isn't something I'm good at. And at some point, there's a shift that needs to be made because ultimately people who love what they do are going to walk 10 miles further than people that don't. So while I definitely, that's why I think resilience is such a fascinating topic because resilience, for me in doing something that I love, it's almost like it's not resilience. I enjoy it. I like what I'm doing. It's not hard because I love it so much. So I think it's a vision thing. Ultimately, figuring it out. Like so, this morning I was actually at my high school CBA, and we were walking the kids through career day. And I got the opportunity to ask them, "Hey, what's your dream life?" And just these sophomores in high school, I never got asked that question, and I didn't really, frankly, figure it out till like a year or two ago. And I still don't know. I'm going to develop that over time, but I really think that the vision of where you want to be, you're going to experience you're going to have to be resilient in getting to that, and trying things that you frankly don't enjoy in order to see what you really do like. So I think that's where resilience to me applies. I was the type of kid when I was growing up, I didn't really want to be told what to do ever. And not many people do want to be told what to do. But what I found over time and kind of through EOS is that asking the right questions in terms of like, what do you want to achieve is ultimately the answer that every business owner and really every human being is trying to figure out. It's just that there's not many people asking those questions. So I really love this topic. I am also like in terms of resilience and whether it's nutrition, whether it's fitness, there's going to be tough moments, but that big why and your vision is really what's going to guide you along the success journey. And that's what I look for in working with business owners. What is your big why? So fascinating topic.
Yeah, I just a thought on that. As you talk about asking the right questions and being good at questioning things, not negatively, but positively. I've been spending a lot of time in front of CEOs, teaching them about what to know about generative AI because CEOs are feel like it's very chaotic and there's a lack of understanding. But one of the things so I go through this, I have a huge newsletter that talks about generative AI for CEOs. I have a 12 steps or 12 things to know for an AI first leadership policy. But the number one thing I talk about is this generation that's been using ChatGPT. So this next generation, which I'm going to call Generation AI, is going to grow up like the people the generation before grew up with cell phones, and then the generation before grew up with the internet. The generation coming up now is going to be they're going to have mastery of generative AI. So you've got school systems right now scared to death of ChatGPT. You've got businesses scared, and more from a data privacy perspective of of generative AI. And so I talk about generation AI, and I say that generation AI is going to be better than any other generation we've ever seen before. And here is why. Yeah, they're going to use ChatGPT, but to get the most out of generative AI, you've got to be able to know the questions to ask it, AKA the prompts. And I think that these humans of the future that are going to be using generative AI as much as we use Google for search, they're going to be so much better at asking questions, because that's what ChatGPT wants them to do, that they're going to be better entrepreneurs. They're going to actually demonstrate an understanding of topics better than we all do. And we just need to get them to share what prompts they use so we can understand their understanding of subjects and topics. By the way, I speak to a lot of school teachers who are frustrated, and I say, just have them show you their prompts. And that will show you that they do or don't understand a topic. But asking the right questions is going to be paramount as we go forward with this future generation.
Piggybacking on that thought and reflecting on something I think both Eric and Chris said, other people, outside forces, play into those moments where we're challenged. Chris had sounded like a teacher who took interest and poured extra energy or just energy into him. Maybe much the same with Eric, with a coach who gave him a choice on how he could respond in a situation. How much influence do you think people have around us on how we navigate those waters of resilience? Ryan?
I think it's paramount to surround yourself with people that are after the same things that you're after, or at least similar things, and have similar values. Ultimately, whether that's in a business, whether that's in your family life, in personal passions, whatever that may be, I think it's paramount to do that, number one. And then two, have an accountability support system around that where, yeah, you are challenging each other. And because ultimately you care so much about getting to that end result and that dream life that you're willing to be held accountable. And I don't know if anyone's read the 5 dysfunctions of a team, but that all starts with trust. You're never going to get to that end result. And if you do get to the end result, it's going to feel so difficult. But it all starts with trust, moving on to healthy conflict. People get more committed, accountability flies, and then that's when results happen. So I think, Jim, to your point, it's crucial to have those people in your life to push you when times do get tough, and things aren't always going to go perfectly according to plan. So totally agree.
Hold it. What do you mean they're not going to go to plan? That's not what I signed up for. But there is this mentality that people get, that people have of, I've already paid my dues. All my dues are done. I've arrived, and now it's going to be smooth sailing. And where do we get those ideas? That's so funny to me. Chris, you're shaking your head like you've heard that one before too.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Ryan said, I just want to caution people though. I caution surrounding yourself with people, same values. Ryan, 100% agree, right? I wouldn't want to be with my group, my network of people, right? If you're not motivated and ambitious, right? You're not. So I think the values, 100%. But you want to be careful of surrounding yourself with similar people that act in, values aside, right? Because I look at it, everybody in I call it my conflict group, right? These are the group of people that I want to bring them to something, and I want them to look me straight in the face and say, Chris, that's stupid. Don't do that. You shouldn't do that, right? When you surround yourself with people that are, yeah, you're like-minded, you're exactly like me. We went to the same college together. You lose a lot of, I would call it, you get a lot of bias. I think it's called unconscious bias that you have in a lot of decisions. I've seen it in leading high growth organizations at high growth businesses before starting Fresh FP&A. I would see this unconscious bias all across the organization, right? You had salespeople that was like, "Oh, I love them because they worked at this group, and because they worked at this company, I know they're going to think, act, do just like me," right? So when it came down to adversity or challenges that we were finding, I would see leaders make the same calls over and over again because they're like, "Yeah, we did that same thing back then, and let's do the same thing," right? So I would caution to make sure when you're surrounding yourself with people, right? I surround myself with people that's how me and Eric got connected, right? Eric reached out to me, and I'll never forget the first time me and Eric talked. I had a tremendous amount of appreciation and respect right out the gate with him because he's very direct, he's honest, he shoots it straight, right? And I'm like, I love people where I don't have to feel like there's a motive or there's an intention, or I don't want to have to feel like you're going to agree with me because you don't want to hurt my feelings, or you have the same perspective and viewpoint that I have, right? So make sure when you're surrounding yourself with people, right? Values, agree. Like you got to have the same value and moral compasses and things around that. But in terms of experiences, in terms of backgrounds, in terms of viewpoints, I like to have people around me that are just like they're very different than me, right? Some of the best mentors that I have, and this is coming from a CFO, so this everybody take your seats and stay back a little bit, right? The best mentors and advisors that I have in my network are marketers and salespeople, right? They are, and I love it because it, you know, I would say part of my superpower is that, and I'll share my secret sauce with everybody, right? I'm just a salesperson that loves and super passionate about finance. That's me. So marketers and salespeople, I just naturally connect with. But I would say, like, as far as surrounding yourself with people, make sure you're having people that are gonna push you, people that are gonna hold you accountable, and more importantly, people are gonna be like, "No, don't do that. That's stupid," right? That would just be the point I would add on to that network of people that you want to surround yourself with.
There's that, I think there's that element of like sandpaper, Chris. This idea is coming to my head as I'm listening to you talk. You know that if we surround ourselves with people that are just perfectly like us, there's nothing to polish off our rough edges. There's nothing to create that luster and that shine that you get when you start using those different grits of sandpaper until you get down to that really, really fine. I worked for a painter in college. I did some summer work, and he used to do the most amazing lacquered libraries. And there would be a dozen, literally a dozen layers of clear lacquer put on that wood before he was done with it. And we had to wet sand every single one of those layers with increasingly finer and finer and finer. First it was sandpaper, and then it was steel wool. I think my fingers are still sore from those days. But the idea of the luster and the polish that we were able to achieve through that process, it would have happened if there hadn't been a little bit of grit, a little bit of something to rub against us. Am I hearing what you're saying correctly, Chris?
Yeah, it's the analogy of like iron sharpens iron, right? I would
Oh
challenge
yeah.
that and say, don't have iron sharpen an iron. Like have something else sharpen it. Like iron sharpens diamonds or diamonds sharpen iron, right? Like
Right.
there's other things that can help sharpen your tool set, your mindset, your perspective, but you have to be open and willing, right? And here, I think a lot of leaders, right? They're just we all fall into this trap, and it's I fell into it and I had to talk myself out of it. You get comfortable with like, hey, this guy's like me, like this he thinks like me, like you get there's complacency when you find comfort in that, right? So like I'm always like, and maybe this is taking back, I used to be an amateur boxer, so taking back to my boxing days, I when I was fighting, I used to always love fighting like way different kind of styles and way different kind of, like when I was a fighter, I'm like, yeah, like my coach was like, "Hey, Chris, we fought this kind of fight." I'm like, "No, I want to fight somebody different. I want to challenge myself to see something differently that I'm not seeing before." So you got to find that and be open to it. Be open to it and say, and say this is. I know this is at the end of the day, it's for the embetterment of myself, and I want to be able to give back to others to help them as well too. So I think when you come with that mindset, man, it really opens you up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris and Ryan. One of the things when I look at, partnering up with partners or partnering up with chief executive officers, Ryan, I agree with you 1000%. They have to share my values now. This is, honesty, integrity are at the paramount for me. Those are the two untouchables. One of the other things I look for, as Chris said, is people that can challenge me that are different, right? But one of the things that I always use is the foxhole analogy. Is could you see yourself in a foxhole with this person, living in a foxhole, and could you get out of the foxhole with this person? Would you want to be in the foxhole with this person? And I got to tell you, it was taught to me early on, and I still live by it today. And it's something that as you mature in your careers and you mature, and I mentor owners and salespeople, and I say, listen, what becomes more important you know, is the why, not the what. Ian, you mentioned the why. The why becomes extremely important, not the what. We all want to focus on what's wrong or what, but it's focusing on the why first. And that's key. That's key to success. That's key to success in business and life, relationships, and sometimes you just have to be challenged. You have to be challenged with it. And I enjoy being challenged by people and being held accountable. I'm accountable to people that I work with, people I partner with, the companies I work for, and the boss, of course. So and she's the tough one. No, I'm kidding. So.
And there's always a boss, isn't there? I mean, there's always that accountability to someone, whether it's someone we've chosen to be accountable to, or whether it's the system that we're working in or with.
I'm curious as to people's thoughts on this. So a lot of the work we do, we're B2B focused, business to business focused, and a lot of it is in technology. And B2B tech has been in an interesting spot for the last 9 to 12 months. Interesting meaning, not great. And I've seen a difference in the CEOs who are coming to a realization that they may have surrounded themselves with a few too many yes persons, and it's hitting them like a ton of bricks after they've had to do a round of layoffs and another round of layoffs and another round of layoffs. We saw UPS doing a big round of layoffs. Now they do cyclical layoffs, so that's not really a huge thing. They do say AI is replacing some of that. Meta continues to do layoffs, and they just announced their, annual report, and they're like, we actually thinned the herd and our profits are a lot better. So we're going to continue to thin the herd. But as I'm seeing these CEOs who are letting people go by necessity, they're kicking themselves, and beating their heads against the brick wall saying, why did I wait until it was a necessity to get rid of the yes people? Why did I not, make sure that I was surrounding myself by people who are, contradicting? And one of the salespeople gave a great analogy that I think goes along well with what Chris and Ryan were saying. And he said, look, if you want to sharpen a knife, you don't sharpen a knife with another knife. You go get some kind of stone. And, there's the old school Boy Scouts flat stone with the oil, or you've got in the kitchen the thing that you sort of slice your knife through, or you take it to, somebody that's got the perfect grinder stone for sharpening knives. But you sharpen a knife using something that's very coarse. That's very not, you would never imagine it to be a tool to make your knife sharper. And somebody said, I was trying to place one of my fractional CMOs with a company, and they're like, no, we want you. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. And they're like, no, we want you. We need the grit. We need somebody that lives in the world of positive devil's advocate, meaning devil's advocate without being an a-hole. And I just thought that was a great analogy of, the only way to sharpen a stone or to sharpen a knife is with a stone, and they're very different materials, and they seem like they work against each other unless you do it right.
I think this is like exactly what you just said, is that visionary integrator personality difference. Like that is such a huge discovery that, one, you don't need to be both. as a visionary entrepreneur. You don't need to be a visionary sitting as an integrator. The integrator is typically the no person. The visionary is the person who's like, let's go spend money on everything. And well, you can't do that. So having that, exactly what you just said, Brett, that having that balance where you have someone who's very ambitious, the visionary, they have 100 different ideas, balanced with that person who's able to say no and focus that visionary entrepreneur on those 2 to 3 ideas that are really going to move the needle and focus on executing at a high level at those. That is the true power of putting yourself with someone who contradicts, what your personality is.
That's a great point. And that's one of the things I like, and again, not trying to make this too much of an EOS love fest, but the idea of those two different polar opposites and how there's a framework and a system to leverage the most out of both of those very different personalities is the knife and the stone.
So I'm curious, for people who are listening who may not be familiar with the EOS framework, how do we put that into layman's language? What kind of markers can we be looking for or creating in our environments that would get us to the same end?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What do you mean by markers?
Okay, so I'm listening to you. I'm a entrepreneur. I've just got a startup, and I'm kind of on my own. And I've got a couple of part-time people. I don't really know what this EOS thing is, but I'm hearing what you're saying about surrounding myself. So what am I looking for? How do I execute on that in my little corner of the world over here? Because I don't have the resources to reach out and to hire people who know this stuff. What can I be doing individually to execute on some of these ideas? Make it practical.
Yeah, I mean, I feel everything is road mapping at some stage, like whether or not you have a startup or you have a $10 million company. I think as time goes on, you have to road map and plan out what's going to happen in the next 3 months and identify today, where are we at today? What seats am I sitting in today as the owner? Am I doing sales and marketing, operations, finance, visionary, integrator? Am I doing all of that currently today? If so, which one am I not so great at? Which one do I not really enjoy and get energy from? So the first step is identifying which ones we don't like as owners, and then bring people in to do those things, and they like those things. But that's a plan. That doesn't just, you can't just hire, 5 people tomorrow. In most circumstances, at the leadership team level. So it's a plan. Say, all right, well, when we hit this revenue number, we can afford this person, and then that will open us up to do X revenue, say 6 to 12 months in the future. And then we bring on this person. It's just road mapping it and being proactive about your business rather than reactive.
If I can just add, I think one thing that was really helpful for me when we sit down, I think this is, to Brett's point in this conversation, this is a great value of a fractional, any regardless resource, right? Whether you're a fractional CMO, whether you're a superstar fractional CMO like Brett, right? Whether you're a fractional chief sales officer like Eric, or, you're the fresh CFO like us, this is where a great fractional person that has that skill, that passion, that talent and experience that can say, hey, I've been there. I've done that. I know all the good, the bad, the ugly, all the pitfalls you're going to make, right? I need to have your trust, as what Ryan mentioned earlier, right? And then I'm going to have the confidence and show you the competency that we could do, right? And for us, when we sit down with those CEOs, business owners, and founders, of small to medium sized businesses that we support, which are, in high growth industries like software, technology, retail, e-commerce, pharma, renewables, and professional services company. When I sit down with the CEO, I'm like, it's simple. This is what we're going to do together, right? It's the strategic to tactical funnel is what I call it, right? You start with the vision at the top. This is where we got to start. Once you get down to that second layer, it's the strategies, right? The layer below that is the tactics, right? Then you go from tactics to metrics. How are we going to measure success? And then the last one, the last two, you got metrics, you got milestones. When are we going to do it? The very tip of that funnel, vision, strategy, tactics, metrics, milestone, execution, right? So you got this whole funnel, right? Going back to my sales, people, funnels are easy to understand, right? We start with the vision, here, the strategies, the tactics, the metric, the milestones, the execution. This is what we're going to do together, right? Now we're going to approach that lens from the leading your finance organization. This is how we're going to approach it. This is how you need to be thinking about your business, right? Because the thing about entrepreneur, we all struggle with this. I struggle with this as leading a global business, right? We all want to do a million different things, right? I've been sick this whole week, and I've been like waiting to do a million different things. Then I said, Chris, I gotta slow down, right? I gotta really get specific on what do I want to achieve, right? And I think when you have that person that has those core attributes, those skills, passions, and talents to help you guide that, now you got somebody in the seat to help you guide you on that journey, right? Say, okay, how do I set the vision? How do I identify the strategies? How do I get to the tactical plans, right? How do I get to the metrics we want to measure that draw action, right? How do we get to the milestones that we want to know when we're measuring success, and how we want to get to the execution? So for me, I think that's a practical framework that any entrepreneur, anybody can go through and leverage to say, how do I get some discipline
Yeah.
around my approach and my execution?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. As entrepreneurs, we put on the face of everything going wonderful. And in reality, it's chaos to awesome to chaos to awesome to, hell factory to chaos to, awesome and awesomer. And one day it's like normal. And you're like, I don't understand this world. So, one of the things when things aren't going quite so well, as entrepreneurs, we want to adapt. And so that means we try new things. If something's not working, try something different. The definition of insanity, same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But then when things start to fire up again, and this is something I realize, when things slow down, I say, okay, we need to try new things. We need to, see what we can do to get things going, to move things forward, to better communicate, to, focus on profit versus revenue, whatever it is. And then things start going like, gangbusters again. And all of those initiatives you tried that you sort of thought was a good idea to try all these different things, all of a sudden you realize they were just distractions and keeping you from actually getting back into your stride faster. And boy, I wish I knew, the formula for when to go wide and when to focus deep. Because if I figured that out, um, our business would be probably, even bigger than it is today. And I would probably have not lost as much hair. Well, I haven't lost much hair, but I probably would not have lost as much sleep, because of it.
I think what Ryan had said, and kind of Ryan, you said it well with a roadmap. Regardless if in business or in life, having that roadmap is so important, and not just having the roadmap, but really working the roadmap. Kind of what Chris had said, and what Brett had just said, is really working the steps of the roadmap. We've all done this in our careers and in life. I can remember when I was a kid, way back when, we would take road trips and we would take out the shell map or the Rand McNally map. Yes, we didn't have Google Maps back then, um, but at the end of the day, we would inherently have to stop at a gas station or a Burger King or a diner because we would get lost from one point to another. You thought it was easy. It's not. And this journey that we go through, and the reason why we are so impactful on small to medium businesses, is our expertise and our experience. And it comes down to those two things, and adding what Chris had said is our passion. And, it's the passion that we bring every day, and you got to bring it every day, and I'll steal one from The Rock, is just bring it. He used to had this expression, yes, I did watch the WWE. Yes, I'm a little geek about that, but he would just say, just bring it. And you know what? If you can instill that in others and just bring it, and you know what? It's every day coming back. And that's what I tell a business owner when sitting down, or a salesperson that's struggling, is, you know what? That's today. You got to come back tomorrow. You got to come back tomorrow, and every day you got to do it over and over and over again. And having that repeatable process is what's so important. Ryan, you work on that with companies, and Chris, you work on that from the finance side, and Brett from the marketing side, to all get them to a better endpoint. Is get them to a better endpoint in the long run. Is for the future of their business. So,
getting to the I want to circle back because I know we're getting towards the the fourth quarter here, the end of this, and back to resilience. One of the things that I think has really energized me or kept me going is 2023. Again, we have been very focused on B2B technology, and that's been a challenging market. And so that means for us in 2023, it was very challenging. As we got towards the end of 2023 and early 2024, a lot of the pivots we made were starting to pay off, and business was picking up again. We were feeling less chaotic. We had figured out the right type of customer base and the wrong type of customer base. And, things are going pretty are effective right now. And my fear, going back to that cycle of the entrepreneur, a part of resilience, which I'm still trying to figure out, is when things are going smoother or going well, I have a natural tendency to wait for a shoe to drop, wait for something to not go well, just because I am so used to these ebbs and flows and these cycles. And so, I'm kind of curious, from the other esteemed colleagues here, and I'm sure we all have run through that, but how do you, delete that programming that causes blue screens of death, in your mind? I'd love to get some ideas.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one and be quick. I think the classic. I stopped falling in love with the results. This sounds really weird, and I'll tell you people why I said I stopped falling in love with the results. Right? When you look at when things are going well and like year over year revenue, like we had triple digit year over year growth at Fresh FP&A, right? And I stopped loving the results because the results are like the destination. It's like you get there and you're like, and I started really falling in love with the process, right? And once you fall in love with the process, it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, ugly, like this curve that happens, you fall in love with this baseline of just like, I'm in the process, right? And
Mhm.
I'm constantly what I tell my team is, and I tell them to constantly be in and where we are with our clients, we constantly love being in flow, right? Just falling in love with the process of whether that is getting year over year triple digit growth or helping a company raise a series B or helping seeing some of the partnerships you had expand into a new market, right? Don't measure yourself and get this big uplift and this big low on the result. Fall in love with the process that got there, right? Once you start taking that mindset, then it's like the results are the
Mhm.
results are not the exclamation point is what they used to be, right? You're falling in love with the process. So that's what's really helped me be able to maintain that kind of like consistency and that baseline is I fall in love with the process every day.
Yeah.
Wise words. I've written that down. Stop falling in love with the results, fall in love with the process. Love it. So as we wrap up, we've got a couple minutes before we get to our goodbyes. If you could speak to a young entrepreneur, someone who's just starting this journey, what would you say to them to help support the resiliency that they're going to need to get from point A to point B? What would your message be? Brett, lead us off.
Yeah, I think, why are you getting into it? what, we hear the what's your why, right? The Simon Sinek, but I think it's sometimes it's hard for people to understand. People fall in love with the idea of entrepreneurship. They fall in love with the idea of seeing all these content creators, all these YouTubers, all these, we'll teach you how to run your own workshops, all this kind of stuff. And it's sad to see. There's a younger guy that I interface with, and he's got this very entrepreneurial, super entrepreneurial mindset, and at the same time, I admire him. He just, does a lot of project work, and does the work before he's going to become an entrepreneur, because he knows he needs to save up the money. He knows that he's not ready yet. He knows that it's not as fast as get rich quick. Um, and the thing I would probably say is, most entrepreneurs that you really like that are, quote unquote successful, there's two things. Number one, they might not be as successful as they, put themselves on to be. And number two is, they very well could have been an overnight success that took 10 years to get there. And more likely it's that second one. And then sometimes you can, call BS on that first one. But it is not an overnight success. We, hear the stories of, Mark Zuckerberg, of Elon Musk. And of course they work incredibly hard, and then they're billionaires, within a few years, but it took them a while to get there. And it took insanely hard work. And so this is not, entrepreneurship isn't rocket surgery. It really isn't. It is, putting in methodologies and processes that are unbelievably important, and not, and I'll go back to what Chris said, which is, don't fall in love with the results, fall in love with the process. I think that's sage wisdom. And I think I'm stealing that, Chris. And I'll call that the Ortega method, which is, don't fall in
I'll
love
call
with
it the
the
CEO
results.
method. That's my
Okay.
initials. The CEO
Okay.
method.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There you go. Love it. Love it. That's
I love it.
awesome.
That's
Um,
great.
so a little bit of rambling, but those are the key things I would probably share with people.
Thanks, Brett. That's good stuff. Ryan, how about you?
I love what Brett just shared about it takes time. Like everyone that's just telling you this is easy, it's not that easy. It doesn't just happen overnight. I love that point. Um, my personal take for a young entrepreneur starting out: surround yourself with someone like a Chris, a Brett, an Eric, a Jim. Like surround yourself with someone, one, who's been there, two, who has expert guidance and experience in a place that you may not. So your weak point, find someone that is really good at that and surround yourself with them. And then just have conversations, provide value to them as well. How can you help them? So definitely surround yourself with an expert, like anyone here in this room today, and also identifying your weaknesses.
I love it. Thank you, Ryan. Eric, how about you?
So I'll kind of reiterate kind of what Brett had said, and Ryan had said. It was sage advice. Is really surrounding yourself with great people, and share their same values that we said before. It's going to be hard work. This is hard work. As Brett said, this is not easy. All those people that Brett mentioned, the Musks, the Zuckerbergs, all these people, even Steve Jobs, very hard work. And they fail. They fail at first. They fail at first. They get fired from something. They get knocked down, they get back up again. That song, you get knocked down, you get back up again. That's like the theme song you got to live by as an entrepreneur. That's it. That's about as simple as I get. And you know what? At the end of the day, have passion about it.
I love it. Thank you, Eric. Passionate will be. Chris, anything to add to the CEO
Man, mine
system?
mine is gonna be really wild, and like people are gonna be scratching their heads off of this. Seek failure every day. Let me say that back again. Find ways to fail every day. The reason why I say that, if you seek failure every day, you'll build an incredible growth mindset that is only focused on 2 options in life. I seek failure every day. I find ways outside to fail. I failed, tried to remove fix a garbage disposal. I failed at that, but I learned. It'll create a mindset. You only win or you're going to learn. You'll never lose, right? If you fail, some of the biggest opportunities and growth moments I've had personally, professionally, in my entire life is because I failed on my face. Seek failure every day and develop the mindset that you're only going to win or you're only going to learn. You only lose if you don't learn. You'll be unstoppable.
Wow, good stuff. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, gentlemen, across the board. I can't believe the hour is almost gone, but here we are, moments away from 1 o'clock. Real quickly, share who you are, what you do, and how people can find you. Ryan, start us off, please.
Yep. So I'm a EOS implementer. I live in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So I work with business owners, up and down New Jersey who are just looking for more time back in their day to focus on, bigger picture things to grow their company. You can find me on LinkedIn, email, social media, and that's it.
Thank you, Ryan. Brett, how about you?
Yeah, so Brett Sklar here, and you can search for Grow Powered on the internets or find me on LinkedIn. My company is called Grow Powered, and we've assembled the greatest, go-to-market minds in all of B2B, and we deliver them as fractional CMOs. And then for some reason, AI has become a very CMO-centric function. So I spend a lot of time helping CEOs figuring out how to leverage generative AI.
Thank you, Brett. Chris, you're up.
Yeah, so check us out, www.freshfpna.com, freshfpa.com. You can also find me on all of our socials, Fresh CFO on LinkedIn. If you want to follow or learn more about Fresh FP&A, we're Fresh FP&A on FPA on all of our socials. And like I said, I run a global fractional CFO and advisory service company that helps organizations transform and scale their finance organizations. So if you're a CEO, business owner, or founder, and you're in a high growth business and you're looking for that strategic finance partner to help you scale your operations, we are looking forward to serve you. So that's a little bit about where to find us.
Thanks, Chris. Eric, close us out.
Sure.
Here.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Eric Bellis, top tier sales advisors powered by Sales Acceleration, Chief Revenue Officer. You can find me on LinkedIn for all those that small businesses that want to grow, that are stuck, and put the right people in the right seats, put the right process in place to be successful for the long term. All you, Jim.
Thank you, Eric. And again, gentlemen, thank you each for your participation, for your contribution today. My company, Pine Tree Partners, can be found online at pinetreepartnersllc.com. We're business strategists and consultants. And every Friday afternoon at 12 noon to 1 o'clock, you can find me here hanging out with the most amazing minds in the business world. Today was no exception. We're deeply grateful for Brett, for Eric, for Ryan, and for Chris for joining us. And I will wish each of you an amazing weekend ahead and a great week to come. Thanks. Bye now.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.